Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our next Cyber Talk series at Swiss Cyber Institute. My name is Samir Aliyev, and today we are going to talk about Hackers Vintage Point. This event is hosted by Bolton Shield, and today we have a very special guest who is Tomas Zatko. Tomas Zatko is head of ethical hacking at Bolton Shield, and Tomas hacked the banks that holds your money. Don't worry, today we are not going to hack you, but we will talk a lot about attackers' point of view in cybersecurity and what you have to know, the approach to the attack simulation and more efficiency improvement loop of the prevention, detection, and reaction. This is online session, webinar session, and this session is recorded. Before I give the stage to Tomas, I would like to ask you to send us your question using Q&A button or chat button on the bottom of your windows, and we will be very happy to answer all of your questions at the end of the event. This event will take like 45 minutes. Afterwards, we will start with questions and answers. Please stay active here, and we will finish it before 5 p.m. for sure, that if you have any other plans. Tomas, stage is yours. Welcome to the Cyber Talk series at Swiss Cyber Institute, and we are looking forward to hear a lot from you.
Thank you very much, Samir, and thank you everyone for joining. So, you know, what we are doing is ethical hacking, and we are trying most of the time to many times we are in a situation when someone is very confident about their security, and then we are proving them wrong. Like basically they are convinced that it's somehow impenetrable, but we show them how it can be penetrated, or the other way around, that people were thinking how they were secure, and it was not us, the ethical hackers, but it was the criminals, the unethical hackers that did the breach. And in many situations, they are hacked, and there are people roaming their infrastructure, and they don't even know, because they don't really have any measures how, or they don't have even a team that how they would find out. And well, it's normal to a very big extent, because fighting on the defender side in cybersecurity is just very hard, and it's very complex, and it's becoming more and more complex. It's a fractal, never-ending fractal of complexity. Today, I would like to tackle like one of the patterns that I'm seeing. It might apply to, it might not apply to. However, the pattern is that people are following the best practices, which is great. They are implementing information security management system. They get certified for ISO 27001, and then they are, or some people in the company, they are believing that that's the best thing that they can do. It's a good thing. It's certainly very important to have a information security management system in place, and to follow the procedures, and to live the security with it. However, it's definitely not enough, and many times the security professionals, they are just like juggling with all the glass balls in their hands. They are busy, and they can't do everything that they would like to do. So of course they need to do what they need to prioritize. And as I like to say, like with priorities, people focus on what we should do first and what we should do next. And yeah, that's one way of looking at priorities. But the other way of looking at priorities that I think many times people overlook is that priorities or prioritization is about choosing what I'm not going to do, because that's what happens in practice. Like when you see all the tasks that you have on hand today, you do the priorities, and there is a line that under that line, you will probably never ever have enough free time in the future to focus on those tasks as well, because there will be other days, new challenges. I guess you probably know that. What does it mean in the world of cybersecurity and vulnerabilities is that people focus on the high priority vulnerabilities or something that they find that it is critical. And then they are overlooking something that is maybe not so critical, or they're trying to fix the hot stuff as fast as possible. And that's, again, natural thing to do. But there are many situations that it might not be enough. And that's what I would like to discuss today. So today I want to tell you a story of a company that was hacked. And this hack was happening in a company that has pretty decent security management system. There are senior people working there. They are in really like pretty high maturity level. And this is a story that was happening across 2 years. So in 2021, there was a minor information leak. There were some internal information in the leaked at one of their servers. Basically, there was some internal document with some internal names, who is where, on what position, something that you couldn't, at that time, you couldn't clearly understand that from public sources such as LinkedIn and so on. And following that, there were multiple social engineering attempts that failed towards the people that were there, like the security team recognized people were well trained. They reported that there were attempts to social engineer them, and that was great that they resisted. However, eventually in 2022, there was one successful attempt, and the target was employee of the PR department. So basically, the hacker at this point was pretending to be a journalist and asked the person from the PR department about the comment on the article that they were going to publish. So he sent him the article as a Word document, and that was around the time that there was a vulnerability in Microsoft Windows support diagnostic tools. So basically, you could trigger that via a Word document that's downloaded something from the internet and triggered local execution of the code. And as a result of that was that there was a backdoor installed on the computer of this PR person. Well, Microsoft pretty fast released a patch, and system was patched. However, the backdoor on this person's computer persisted. And this was the first step of this attacker, or like we believe it's the same attacker that was trying to do the social engineering attempt before. And there was already a foot in the door, and the attacker had access to the local system. The attacker started looking around. There was some access to the internal applications. However, the peer person had very low privileges, so there was nothing interesting to see there. So the attacker was, returning on and off there, and eventually the attacker misused a vulnerability in the printers that were connected in the network, and with the remote code execution exploit towards the network printer, the attacker was able to do VLAN hopping. So that is that the person who was at the PR department, he had very low privileges, not only within the internal applications of the company, but also on the network level. So basically it was pretty boring network with a couple of office workers that didn't have many privileges. However, they could print. And there were more people, the printer was accessible from several different VLANs from several different networks, and it was configured in a way that it was working both ways. And by executing a code at this printer, the attacker was able to hop to a network with machines of the developers, and there was an internal application, like in development application, discovered at one of the developers' machines. So that was something interesting, and at this point, the attacker was exploring what he or she or what they could do there. So as the application was in the rapid development, obviously there were no security tests before that. There were quite a lot of vulnerabilities there. There was like server-side request forgery, local file inclusion, and that led to discovery of a homemade backup script in the cron scheduler. So it was a homemade script written by the administrator that was doing a backup of that system daily during the night. And this backup was being uploaded to a specific location on the file server via SMB protocol. And that looked pretty interesting. So the attacker started looking to the backup server and tried to access the other backup locations that were present there. Well, the listing of the other locations was not possible. However, if you knew the structure, like how were the backup files named, you could if you could omit the listing itself, and you could actually access directly the file names with knowing them, you were able to access some of the other backup files. So interesting. What we can gain from that? Anyway, the attacker played with the application a bit more and managed to get a remote code execution and install a backdoor on that development machine as well. that backdoor from there was calling home via obfuscated HTTPS traffic. So it was not something that you can, like in the old days that, oh, that's a, completely non-standard port with some non-standard communication. Like it looked pretty normal. Even the size of the traffic, the volume of the transfer data looked pretty normal. It really didn't show any alert on the monitoring, nowhere, nothing. With this backdoor, even the updating the network printers software and thus fixing the vulnerability that allowed the VLAN hopping before, even this didn't cut off the attacker, as at this point the attacker had already access to 2 backdoors within the infrastructure in 2 different VLANs. That's the PR person's computer and the development server. At some point, the attacker figured by some directory fuzzing, could access the backups of the configuration files of the web application firewall and intrusion detection system, which to our knowledge didn't lead to anything special in this case. However, what it could lead to in general is that when you know how those tools are configured, you can much better aim the obfuscation of attacks that you are doing. So basically, both the web application firewall and intrusion detection system is searching for patterns or is searching for the anomalies, and kind of like it's searching for something that doesn't fit to a pattern of normal operation. And when you understand the details, what's the configuration, what's the vendor, the attacker can even test it offline at his end and develop an attack with obfuscation method that is fine-tuned to this specific configuration. And then, the way is open, even though you have the security tools there that should be preventing or detecting the attack, but the attack is fine-tuned to that configuration and stays undetected. So eventually, the attacker identified a group of scripts used for the group of scripts that were executed on the new machines after they are deployed. So a new employee comes, they first install a local image with some basic tools that they are using in the company, and then based on the specifics of who that person is and what kind of work he or she is doing, they are deploying additional software there, and there was a script that was doing it. And the funny thing is that for whatever reason, this script was very easy to, this script was writable there. So, you would expect that when you are logging in and uploading your backup, that you would be able to modify only your own files. However, this backup there was actually, this was not the backup part, that was a different part of the file storage. Anyway, it was stored there, and the attacker was able to modify that script, and then he was just waiting. And Then for several months, nothing happened. And then after several months, the deploy script was used on a new machine, and that modified deployed script installed another backdoor on the newly installed machine. As it normally goes when you are a new person at the company, you need administrators, assistance in several situations. And as the administrator was helping the new person to operate there, this backdoor was able to gain the credentials of the admin and get even higher privileges. So this is one of the examples of the chaining that can happen over that happened over longer period, and this is something that we are seeing at companies, that their security is in pretty decent level. And this is just one of the several examples of how it can happen. There are some of the vectors that can start from completely outside via the social engineering, which is many times the case. Many times it is a combination of different methods, like, for example, old situations like, coming there in person and deploying the USB. We have seen even people trying to deliver physical machines. Like, there was a Raspberry Pi on a power bank with the Wi-Fi antenna and 3G modem attached there. Someone brought it physical to the premises. Thankfully, after we did the incident response on this, it turned out that it was just another penetration testing company testing the customer, and this test was ordered without the knowledge of the security team that asked us to investigate these situations. We have seen the entry of such attack even via unplugging one of the security cameras and thus gaining access to the inside networks. And many times it is via hacking one of the suppliers. And of course, the supply chain attacks are not something new. We have heard that many times before. How does that? How important it is? However, this is still very tricky to what to do with it. Like, you are using several different pieces of software, and you just know that you need to use it. And if the new update is bringing some extra stuff with it, you can't really find out. Okay, now, so I painted a horrible picture that with exploit chaining you can do horrible stuff. What to do about it? So there are some of the evergreens that you probably heard on the conferences. Like, one of the new ones is you need to do zero trust, which is great. However, there is a lot of different interpretations of what does it really mean. And one of the things that everyone is looking after is when it is getting so complex, and we are always struggling how to fight the massive amount of variants of the attacks, how we can do the effective response or effective measures, both preventive and reactive, without spending all the money on that. So there is no magic solution that would be, solving everything. I guess no one is expecting that. There are a lot of tools that can help you with partial problems. And I believe the sweet spot is combining the automation with the manual work. Why I say this is a sweet spot? There are a lot of let's say let's see how it works in the usual company. You have tools such as Nessus scan meter, or something that is scanning vulnerabilities regularly in your company, and someone CISO or someone under CISO is receiving the reports, and that is being processed together with all the other work that that person is doing. Whenever you are deploying a new application, or you are doing a major change in the application or in a system, or you are moving something to cloud, you are probably doing penetration testing. Both of these things are important, and that's great. However, I believe that doing these things in a disconnected way is not enough. Not enough in that sense that vulnerability scanning gives you value, penetration testing gives you value. If you're doing red teaming, that gives you value too. If you're running a bug bounty program, that's perfect. That's a very important and still quite new approach that more people should adopt, and not enough people are adopting. So that's great as well. However, if you are doing all of these things separately, you are not getting as much value as if you tried to put that together. So what should one rather do? So I believe the future should be more integration of the automated tools and follow-up of manual scanning with the follow-up of automated scanning with the manual penetration testing that won't be just aimed at the new applications or systems or anything that is undergoing a major change. However, there should be regular return to exploit chaining, and to trying to discover how an attacker can chain lower or medium risk vulnerabilities into something horrible. Why? Because again, even in the companies that all the high and critical vulnerabilities are mitigated, the medium and low ones can be misused and eventually will be misused. And at the same time, there is no time and not enough motivation to solve all the medium and low ones because there is just so many of them. So let's use the hacker's imagination, and let's try to demonstrate the exploit chains and what the hackers can do with them. And then when we can see those, then we have a clear proof that it is worth to fix the specific vulnerabilities that are present that are present in the chain. And yeah, I guess that's the main idea of what I wanted to tell you. I guess I am a bit too early, but anyway, I hope we can have a valuable discussion based on this. Please share your views on that. I would like to hear what are your experiences with how you are dealing with the risks of exploit chaining in your organization.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It was a very informative session. We have some questions for you I would like to ask, if you hear me very well. First question is about ISO certification. Would you say that there is no advantage in being ISO certified?
There definitely is. Depends. Like I have seen, like we have done penetration tests at the companies that they were certified, and they were not really living the up to the declared processes, so the company that did the certification to this specific customer that I have in mind, they were rather checking the presence of the documents and existence of the procedures, and they were not really checking if they are really implemented and if they are properly in the life cycle of the company, and they really were not. But that doesn't mean that it's valueless. So maybe part of the certification, or when you are seeing a company that is certified, it's good to consider who did the certification, because it can make a difference. And if you ask around, you will find out that some of the companies that are doing the certifications are basically just kind of giving that for free. Like if you pay, you will get the certification, even if you are not really ready, and if your system is not worth receiving the certification. But there are other companies that are more strict, and if you are not ready, they won't certify you. So, but in any case, already if you are implementing the measures according to the ISO 27002 standard, that is the implementation part of that, it's a good thing. Like I don't want to kind of like bully that standard, or say that it's all wrong. It's not. It's a decent material. It's a very good thing. It's just a very high level that needs to get properly implemented, and there are a lot of details that can be done better or worse.
Yes, great, thanks a lot. I have another question again about ISO certification. If you think about ISO certification, is there a way to make it right so that attackers actually notice, and so it makes their job harder? Do you think that ISO certification will help us to avoid attackers from our honeypot?
No, it won't. It won't scare the attackers. It might help you to. Well, it will definitely help you to have a system that will make it harder for attackers to succeed.
Yes.
So, like if you don't have any security management system in place, you are probably failing in a lot of things, and you might get very easily hacked via public exploit that was patched a long time ago. And if there is just no one responsible for patching or telling someone that, like simple things. Like that those are such a simple failures that you can get that I don't even want to repeat them. So if you don't have the implementation and certification of security based on ISO 27 series, it's probably not very good in your company.
Yes.
But just because you have it doesn't guarantee that the attackers won't try. What it will probably achieve, but it's more of a, goes hand in hand with being certified, but it's not the result of the certification itself, is that the script kiddies that can't be really inventive and they can't go deep when they are attacking, they will fail. They won't be able to hack you.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because when some of the most famous hackers in like last 10 years, for example, where the public image of them was that, oh, they were able to hack such and such giant company and they look very big, very professional, but in reality they were just the script kiddies that were scanning wide ranges of the internet, and if the scanner told them that, oh, here is a vulnerability, they just went in, used the public exploit, and they were not really experts. But for the company that was hacked, it doesn't matter if they were script kiddies or not.
They are hacked.
The public news, and it did the damage, and the PR was horrible of that.
Yes. Another question. Can you give us some tips on how to identify the relevant tiny little security holes in the patch? Because patching them all is not really possible, is it? From your perspective, from hackers' perspectives?
Sorry, patching what? Can you rephrase it maybe?
Can you give us some tips to identify the relevant tiny security holes to patch? How to identify those small security holes, gaps in the system to patch them, because patching all of them is not really possible. You might get also wrong signals or wrong patches or wrong holes.
So this is like I wanted okay, so I don't want to be like I didn't want this to be like a sales pitch, but like that's what we are trying to figure now in Bolt and Shield, and how we are approaching this is exactly the integrated method of following up the scanning with the manual work of chaining, so we can evaluate what's from these medium and low ones, or the ones that you wouldn't prioritize as those that you need to patch now, like what to do with them. Some of them, they don't have official patch. Some of them you can't patch because of the, I don't know, compatibility reasons. Sometimes the system is so old that if you updated the system, something else would break. Like it gets very complex. So there is no one size fits all solution for this, sadly. But this is something that many companies are experiencing. So this is exactly something that we are trying to solve, and it sounds like a niche, because most of the big vendors, they are, like just roll a dice and pick a random vulnerability scanner, and roll a dice again, pick a different one, and run both of them. And the reports will look differently, but the content, like visually differently, but the content will be more or less will be the same. So what to do with it? You know, like it's always structured that the top ones are the most priority. Everyone is doing that, and then it is on the first 2 pages, and then there's normally like 20, 30, 40 pages of lower priority vulnerabilities, and people are just so overwhelmed that they are not really taking care of that. And we believe that, you know, that's the hard work there, that we are trying to figure how to automate that. But while we are figuring how to automate that part, we are following up with the manual work, and we are fine-tuning the solution for what's needed in that specific scenario. I'm sorry that I couldn't give, you know, like a very simple, like, okay, this is the magic pill, but sadly there is not.
There is no magic pill, right?
Yeah, there is no.
We have a question from Oxford, UK. Hi. Shai is asking particularly how do multiple teams integrate? How do multiple teams integrate, collaborate, and achieve maximum value? Who leads this? Who leads the team or this collaboration?
So I'm not sure if this was about how we do it. So if this was about how we do it in the situation that I tried to describe, the teams are pretty small, and there is some kind of you know, internal scoring system, and people are, you know, it's a game for those people, and normally it is very small groups of people that are trying to chain those vulnerabilities. So there is not like, we are not using multiple teams for a single engagement. So normally the team is, for example, 2 or 3 people. So the teams are pretty small. So there is no need of multiple teams collaborating in here. And who leads the team? So, you know, like shared responsibility. I think shared responsibility doesn't work. So there is always a single person chosen to be the leader of the team, and that person is the coordinator. Now I'm thinking that if we need to do this in like a massive environment, it will be very interesting question to tackle if we need to work with multiple teams. However, so far working with small teams worked for us.
Yep, thanks a lot, Tomas. I have another question for you. Which kind of tools can we use for automation? This is a question that about automation tools.
So we are, no, it depends on, like, I was using automation as a general term. So, you know, when you search, like, just for fun, you can now open a new tab in your browser and search for cybersecurity landscape. And you know, when you put that picture that you will find, and you put it to full screen, unless you have a giant display in front of you, you won't even be able to read all the names of the tools that exist. So, you know, all of that is automation. So I am using it as a general term. However, it's more complicated than that, because the cybersecurity is a giant business, and it's sometimes very hard to judge the quality of the products that are being sold. I will try to be as neutral as possible now, but I have seen a product that was claiming to be like a super advanced intrusion detection system for a specific sub-industry.
Yes.
And when we were analyzing what it really is, it turned out to be just a Snort, which is it's like a decent open source tool, but there was not much more work done on top of the open source tool, just marketing buzz around that. Like that's a bad example, you know, like now there are a lot of good tools there, and what one should aim to achieve is to have a selection of tools that are filling the gaps that you need to fill.
Yes.
That's the phase one, you know, that you need to help, that you need to have the tools to help you automate the work that you need to do. And that's the stage one. And then the stage two is that you have a lot of different tools that are normally living in their own world, and they are, you know, either sending you some reports, or each of them has their own dashboard, and you can't really, you don't have like a single umbrella above them that would be integrating all those resources, all those outputs, and you need to do that manually. And that's why you use the experts, why you hire CISO, or why you hire the security analyst to actually integrate those outputs with his brain. And the future of the automation is, I believe, to more focus on the automated integration of different tools.
Once we are talking about automation and manual work, human work, I would like to ask a question from my side, that how would you go about finding the optimal mix between the automation and the manual work or human work, that we have to find the balance between those two different objects?
Yeah, that's a 10 million question. And there is a very, I would refer you to a very nice XKCD comics on the automation that is, you know, like how we do that when we are doing our work is that when we feel that we are already doing the same method, you know, several times, then it's time to automate that, you know. So that's we like everything that is repeatedly happening should be automated. If it is, you know, if let's like to decide if something should be automated, one just needs to do the estimation and the math behind that. You know, what's the cost of actually automating that, and what's the return of investment? You know, so if I am doing, let's say, a report for something once a year, and doing that report takes me 1 hour, it doesn't make sense to spend 100 hours with automating that, you know, because it would take 100 years until it pays off the automation. But if I am a provider that is doing that for, you know, that can make 1,000 customers, you know, that can save 1 hour a year for 1,000 customers. So for my end, it of course makes sense to invest 100 hours into that, because then it is, you know, in that case it is worth to do that investment. So yeah, that's the mathematical way how you can estimate that. And again, it's, you know, like I try to put some mathematical thinking into that, but by the end of the day is the best guess that you can do. We are living in an uncertain world.
Great. I believe we have a few minutes to finish the event, but before that I have final questions. It's again about ISO certification. And I'm reading the question to you. If the ISO certification and renovated security vendors don't mean anything, how can a company with very limited security resources do the right thing? So without ISO certification, without security vendors, and without a lot of resources, what we have to do as a company to do the things right? Maybe you can do 5 points as a
like I would be following this question with more question to understand better the situation, but I try to like I always try to search for efficient solutions that many times are somewhere that people don't see them, like for example, I think one of the vastly overlooked way how to reduce the risks is trying to reduce the impact. Like there is this classical formula for calculating the risk, and that's likelihood divided by impact. And the likelihood part is something that, like we are pretending that we know, but we don't really know, like maybe most of the people in security are familiar with the concept of black swan, mostly popularized by Nassim Taleb. So, like many times people think that something is very low probability, and even though the impact is very high, they don't need to take care of that. But then, it doesn't happen until it happens. So, many times we think that, okay, it's very low probability, the risk is low. So how I am trying to think about that, like, let's just focus on the impact and let's try to reduce the impact. So, for example, if you don't have data, hacker can't steal the data. So, for example, if you're collecting, regarding GDPR, like GDPR, it's pretty common example regarding this, So I believe the best way how to protect personal data is not to collect personal data, or collect as little data as possible.
If you don't collect personal data.
Yeah, or like if you're an e-shop and you are dealing with customer data, like, do you really need to store everything? Like, okay, maybe some of that is important for you for analysis and so on, but maybe you don't need all the data, like, for example, I am really bothered when I am buying something online from a shop that I never shopped before from that shop, and I probably won't be shopping ever after. But exactly. They will store my data and they are forcing me to register. And if I am lazy to delete my, to cancel my account and ask them to delete my personal data afterwards, which most people are, then, there is yet another of hundreds of places with my personal data.
Mm-hmm.
And for that provider, for the owner of that shop, or, that just example, like with whatever other data, like there is a very often overlooked area, like maybe you don't need to have that, so many times it's good to think, okay, how, if the hacker hacks me, how can I lower the impact of that, so focus on the impact much more than you would be focusing on the likelihood of whatever risk. That would be probably the number one advice that I would be giving.
Thomas, I believe there are a lot of topics to discuss, but we have a little bit limited time. And we have last 2 minutes, and there's a very interesting question for you and for your team as well. And how can I work in your company? Do you hire security experts?
Yeah. Federico, so yeah, we are always hiring. So I think just reach out on LinkedIn, either to me directly, and we will, we can talk. We are always happy to discuss with people that are passionate about security. I believe the passion is the most important part, like it can be very, very hard at times. It's a very hard job, but it's a fun job. So if you are passionate about that, we are happy to talk to you.
Great. Then thanks a lot, Thomas. It was again another great session with Shield. We are happy to host you again, to hear you, your thoughts, your advices. And yeah, it was great session, 1 hour. And I thank you, to your team, to Shield, and to our attendees, all of you who stayed until now to listen to us. And thanks for the questions that we received from you. And wish you a pleasant afternoon or evening time in Switzerland. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Samir, and everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.